Karen! Hi. Thank you for getting back on the proofreading so fast and for your great thoughts. I'm coming to you from the loft in Snowersville, where I'm hiding from my mother-in-law who has dementia. I have to get some work done, and that sounds horrible, but I'm spending the rest of the time with her. Whoops, hair sticking out. Your comments were great. You gave me a lot to think about and to decide whether, besides some error correction, there are any last-minute little tweaks, changes, dials of the knobs I want to make. But one of your questions, as I sat down to write an answer to you, I decided it deserved more of the book club kind of answer, and I just couldn't write that. And so here you go. Inner narrative. I'm not sure if you know that I have a lot of Islanders in my life. And most of them are a lot like Ava in the sense that they were in households where they went to private instead of public school. The public schools are really bad. The island of St. Marcos is based on the island of St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is where I lived for 10 years, and where Natalie, my muse, the Ava character, is from, and where my husband is from, and lived all his life, really, except for going to college, until I dragged him away to the States. So, with people that are from that segment of the island population, while there are some things about them that are going to be so different from people from the States, I mean, respect is such a big issue, and I don't even know how to describe how big an issue it is, but it comes out and bubbles out in all these different ways. What it means to be treated with respect to my island friends, that's a much bigger thing to them than their accent, unless they're using that accent as a touchstone, an identity with each other, and it's also an exclusionary thing. It is an accent they can use that shows that we speak English, but you're not one of us. I'm not one of them. That was very clear to me in my whole 10 years there. There are some things that they're going to say, either in their inner narrative or verbally, that are always going to have an accent because there's not a direct translation from that colloquialism into the Queen's English. So, me, Freda, Utal, Banya, Irie, Yaman are always going to sound like that, even in their heads, but that's not because they have an inner narrative like a local, it's because there's no direct translation. Whereas other very, very islandy expressions, like call it George, will be said however they want to say it. So what happens in these households with the kids that are a little more privileged, I mean, it is a socioeconomic thing. The kids that are from households where there's 6 kids with 6 baby daddies and the mom lives in the projects and half of them drop out of high school before they're finished, that's not only an inner dialogue that's different as to accent, but it's also different in many other ways. But Ava wouldn't think like them inside, and they are the ones that would think in a very thick local patois, So, for authenticity's sake, Ava's got to think like someone that is well-educated, well-traveled, and has one parent in the household that doesn't speak locally. She's going to grow up being taught that to sound smart and to get ahead in life, that you talk like you're an American. That's the way these kids were raised and taught. So when my husband is being, when he's tired, when he's verbalizing things out loud, or he's been drinking or something, it doesn't come out like an islander. As to accent, he will use expressions, he will use words that are different than I would learn growing up in Texas. So there's this ongoing battle that's been going on between my content editor and me for 6 years about how to do dialogue, because since most of my readers are from the States, it just gives her hives that I use dialogue. It's funny, isn't it? Because you like it, and I like it. I think it gives it color, but she keeps telling me that your readers are from the States and they don't want to wade through all of this. Well, as I said, that's been going on for a long time, and the discussion preceded that. For 2 years before that, it was back and forth between my husband and me. Can you hear my dog snoring? He's just hilarious. Peter, hush. Anyway, as I was drafting the original Katie books, there was this discussion between my husband and me about how to do dialogue. Ultimately, what I came up with for this book, for better or for worse, and I'm gonna leave it alone. I am gonna leave it like it is. But I went and really searched out expressions and tried to capture Ava's inner narrative and her islandness by the way she thinks and the way she filters the world and herself in relation to the world, and some of the expressions that come out in her head, especially verb choice was good with this. And is there more I could have done? I don't know. She's a long time coming. I've been putting together Ava for a long time, and I think I got her right, even though that can be disappointing when it isn't as much the way that we picture it or that we want to picture it. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So Ava's going to stay how she is for purposes of the inner narrative, but the reason is because I think I got her right, and I think she may not be entirely who everyone thinks she is, because we haven't gotten to know her in earlier books, except as she's wanted us to see her, and as she's wanted to portray herself and put herself out there. And this time we're getting to see the real Ava, which is that inner and outer person, and the one that was shaped by this Canadian dad and this, Catholic Bahamian mom that sent her off to private schools and then shipped her to NYU, and they created a girl that sounds a lot like Ava. Anyway, there's your long answer, and I love that you brought it up. It's probably the most discussed thing about writing Ava, except her sexuality, which we've talked about a whole lot amongst husband, muse, other writing peeps, etc., and about the white woman who's created a character that is black. To have one black parent is to be black, and so a white woman that's created a black character that can't get away with saying, "Oh, but my best friend is her," because of course that makes you sound like somebody that's protesting too much. So there was nobody else to write her. She's my character, so I go ahead and write her, and there is that worry about how well I can pull it off. So all this stuff keeps me awake at night. Bye.